It's Tuesday, the 10th of September 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories, 5 minutes. Let's get cracking. Story number 1, the country's largest listed company, Commonwealth Bank, is now 20% bigger than number 2, BHP, with the banks really cementing their positions as the dominant players on the local market.
A couple of months ago, BHP was easily the biggest company on the bourse, but with Commonwealth Bank up 40% over the past year and BHP down 10%, the Sydney-based bank has now cemented its position at the top of the ASX. Among the top 20 companies, there's broadly been 2 tiers in terms of performance over the last 52 weeks, the good and the ugly. Westpac has been the top performer of the banks, up 50%, followed by Commonwealth Bank. National Australia Bank's up 36%, ANZ's up 26%. Macquarie Group's up 30%, as is Wesfarmers. Now, Goodman Group has risen 44%, WiseTech Global a massive 83%. These are much bigger rises in the overall market, with the S&P ASX 200 up just 11%. Now, offsetting the strong performances have been some pretty ordinary performances. Woodside's down 37%, Fortescue's off 16%, BHP's down 10%, and Rio is off 4%. That's all over the last 12 months. CSL's the only top 20 company moving with the market, rising about 10% over the past year. Telstra and Transurban have been flat. Woolies has underperformed.
Sean, just quickly, you mentioned WiseTech Global there. Have the tech stocks been the best performers over the past year? Because there's so much hype around tech generally. Or has that title gone to the banks?
It's now gone to the banks. The ASX 200 bank index is up 40%. The tech index is up 30%. The resources index is down 16%. That's mostly about fears of a slowdown in the world's 2 biggest economies, the US and China. The other stocks that haven't done very well, at least compared to the large caps, are the small caps.
Okay, moving on to story number 2 now, and more than 3,000 serving military personnel and former veterans died from suicide between 1997 and 2021. This is from the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide, and a scathing report of how military chiefs and the bureaucracy takes care of those who have worn the uniform for Australia.
The 7-volume report made 122 recommendations, including better mental health screening for recruits, reducing the frequency of postings for personnel, tying performance assessments for senior officers to mental health and gender equality outcomes, and management of unacceptable behaviour. The Royal Commission received almost 6,000 submissions, heard from almost 350 witnesses, and prompted then Chief of Defence Force Angus Campbell to apologise for deficiencies in providing care and support for servicemen and women and veterans. Defence Minister Richard Marles tabled the final report yesterday. Earlier in the day, Royal Commission Chair Nick Caldas blamed a failure of leadership in Canberra over the years for failing to heed warnings despite countless recommendations from prior inquiries.
Story number 3, Westpac will get a new CEO, with the boss of business banking, Anthony Miller, taking over the top job in December.
The outgoing CEO, Peter King, was supposed to leave the bank 4 years ago, but answered an SOS from Chair John McFarlane to become a CEO for a couple of years. That was after the AUSTRAC scandal. He took it up for a couple of years and COVID hit. In the end, he'll be CEO for close to 5 years. His replacement, Mr. Miller, is a lawyer and investment banker from the inner western suburbs of Sydney. Big organisations tend to like internal CEO candidates, so I'm sure the board is happy with his appointment. Mr. Miller will take over a much simpler organisation than it was 5 years ago. They've sold things like BT Funds Management, its general and life insurance businesses, and its vendor finance operations. His big job, according to analysts, is to simplify Westpac's tech stack. It currently operates 180 platforms. Good luck to him.
Indeed. Story number 4. Retailer Solomon Lew has fired the managing director of Smiggle, John Cheston, and accused the longtime executive of, quote, serious misconduct.
The company didn't outline reasons why Mr. Cheston was immediately terminated, but his exit came as confidential internal documents about the performance of some of Premier Investments, Mr. Lew's company, were leaked to the media. In a statement, Mr. Lew's Premier Investments said it considers that Mr. Cheston has engaged in serious misconduct and a serious breach of his employment terms, and on that basis, his employment has been terminated. Mr. Cheston has already been employed to run ASX-listed fashion jewellery chain Lovisa. Mr. Cheston was due to serve out a 12-month notice period with Premier. Doesn't need to do that anymore. In terms of the leaked documents, they show all the brands within Premier, Portman's, Just Jeans, Dotty, JJ's and Jackie E, have suffered negative sales growth this year.
Last one, story number 5. Sean, if you want to be a politician, then train as a lawyer or become a party staffer, according to a new report into the backgrounds of federal parliamentarians.
Politicians with white-collar backgrounds dominate Parliament, with lawyers and barristers comprising about 1/5 of MPs in federal Labor, Greens, National and Liberal parties, along with managers and consultants. Former political staffers also dominate the ranks of politicians sitting in the House of Representatives and Senate. More than half of Labor MPs worked as staffers before getting pre-selected, while the makeup is about 1/3 for the Liberal Party, 20% for the Nationals. The report comes from think tank Per Capita. It says the number of lawyers and barristers is up from 15% in the previous Scott Morrison government. Worth noting, Anthony Albanese is typical of a Labor politician, a New South Wales government research officer, then a staffer, then federal politics. Opposition leader Peter Dutton is not typical. He was a police officer.
There we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Tuesday, the 10th of September, 2024. Make sure you're following the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.